I sold my retirement, my home, and my health to put my son through medical school, only to find out he'd dropped out 3 years ago and was spending $180,000 of my money on parties and a DJ fantasy. When I confronted him, he didn't apologize. He asked for $50,000 more. My name's Marianne, 52, female. I keep staring at the empty hook by my front door where I used to hang my keys, like that's the spot where the old version of me lived. The version that believed in sacrifice like it was a holy thing. The version that thought if you love someone hard enough, they'll turn into the person they promised they'd be. My son Jason, 27 male, used to call me his ride or die. I know. Cringe. But he'd say it with that grin that made him look like the kid who used to press his forehead to the living room window waiting for me to get home from night shift. When he got his med school acceptance, he cried so hard he hiccuped. He wrapped his arms around me and kept whispering, "We did it, Mom. We did it." Like it was a shared victory. And I ate that up, because I'm a nurse and I'm tired, and my whole adult life has been built on being the person who shows up. I didn't have some cushy nest egg. I had a small rental property I'd scraped together after my divorce, a 401k that looked decent on paper, and a body that already ached in places it shouldn't. But when Jason got into med school, the math in my head became simple and brutal. Either I fund this, or he drowns. So I funded it. I sold the rental property. Watching strangers walk through it at the open house felt like watching my future get carried out in cardboard boxes. I cashed out my 401k early and took the tax penalty like swallowing glass. I moved into a one-bedroom apartment with a view of a parking lot so he could have space to focus. Every month, like clockwork, I sent him $5,000. Tuition, rent, books, food. Scrub money, he joked once, like it was cute. My best friend Martina, 53 female, begged me to slow down. Martina and I have worked the same hospital floor for 15 years. She's the kind of woman who can smell a lie like smoke in a hallway. "Mari," she'd say, using that tone she uses when a patient's vitals are slipping, "you can't bleed forever and call it love." But Jason would call. He'd FaceTime me from what looked like a clean apartment, stethoscope around his neck, scrubs on. "Rotation was brutal," he'd groan, "but I'm doing it. For you." He'd send pictures of textbooks spread out like some Instagram study aesthetic. He'd tell me about professors with names I couldn't pronounce. He'd complain about memorizing anatomy, and I'd laugh and tell him to drink water and sleep. And I believed him. God, I believed him. Because the alternative, imagining my own son looking me in the face and taking from me on purpose, was too ugly to hold. At the time, the only red flag I let myself notice was how he always dodged visits. "Not this weekend, Mom. Exam week." "Not now. I'm on call." "Don't come. It'll stress me out." I told myself it was dedication. Now, when I replay those calls in my head, I hear something else under his words. Not stress. Control. And the worst part? The part that makes my throat tighten like I'm swallowing a fist? I was proud. I was so proud I could barely breathe. The first time something didn't sit right, it wasn't dramatic. It was a grocery store conversation. I was in line after a 12-hour shift, scrubs wrinkled, compression socks digging into my calves. My cart had rice, eggs, generic brand coffee. That was the rotation. Cheap, predictable, survivable. That's when a woman I vaguely recognized smiled at me. "You're Jason's mom, right?" I smiled back automatically. "Yes, proudly." She lit up. "Oh, my son Joshua lives with him. They're building that entertainment company together. Such creative boys." My brain didn't process the words correctly at first. "Lives with him?" I asked. She laughed lightly. "In that penthouse downtown? The one with the rooftop? They throw the best launch parties." Penthouse, launch parties, entertainment company. I felt something inside me go still, like when a patient's heart monitor flatlines and the room suddenly feels too quiet. "I thought Jason lived alone," I said carefully. "For studying." She blinked. "Oh no, honey, they've had roommates for years. You must be joking." I wasn't joking. I drove home in silence, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles hurt. When I got inside my tiny apartment, I stared at the stack of mail on my kitchen counter, and that's when I saw it. 3 envelopes from the medical school, unopened. They were addressed to Jason, but the permanent address was mine. I'd never questioned that. He'd said it was easier for paperwork. I opened the first one. Notice of withdrawal. The date was from 3 years ago. My chest physically tightened. I couldn't pull in air properly. I opened the second. Same thing. Administrative confirmation. The third was about tuition reimbursement and exit documentation. 3 years. 3 years of $5,000 payments. 3 years of double shifts. 3 years of him describing fake rotations and professors. I don't remember grabbing my car keys. I just remember driving downtown, rage and disbelief mixing like gasoline fumes in my head. The building was real. Luxury high-rise. Valet. I marched through the lobby in my wrinkled scrubs like a woman on a mission. The elevator ride felt endless. When the door opened, I didn't knock. The music hit me first, bass vibrating the floor. Jason was there, my son, standing behind a professional DJ setup. Lights, speakers, people laughing with drinks in their hands. He wasn't in scrubs, he wasn't tired. He looked alive, confident, flawless. "Mom?" he said, annoyed more than surprised. The music cut. Everyone stared. "Medical school," I said. It came out hoarse. He rolled his eyes slightly. "Can we not do this right now?" "Right now?" I repeated. He walked toward me like I was embarrassing him at prom. I dropped out first semester. It wasn't for me. Too much memorization. I found my passion. I heard someone whisper, "Is this for real?" 3 years, I said. "You let me believe." "It's not like I burned the money," he snapped. "I invested it. Equipment, branding, networking. This is my career." My vision blurred. "You sold your future to fund mine," he continued, like he was pitching to investors. "It'll pay off. I made 30 grand last year." 30, out of 180. When I started crying, he looked irritated. "Don't manipulate me," he said. "Lots of parents support their kids' dreams." And that's when I realized something far worse than the money being gone. He didn't feel guilty. He felt entitled. I left before I collapsed. Behind me, the music started again. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with the withdrawal letters spread out like autopsy reports. 3 years ago, first semester, he failed anatomy and walked away. And instead of telling me, instead of saying, "Mom, I messed up," he built a whole alternate universe. Fake rotations, fake professors, fake stress. He even mailed himself medical pamphlets to my address so I'd see them. I found those too, stacked in a drawer like props. The next morning, my phone rang. "Jason." I let it go to voicemail. He texted instead. "You embarrassed me last night." "You could have handled that better. Now people are asking questions." No apology, not one. I stared at the words until they blurred. Around noon, Martina came over. I hadn't even called her. She just showed up. She took one look at my face and didn't ask questions, just made coffee and sat down across from me. "He's not sorry, is he?" she asked gently. "No," I said. And then I told her everything. The penthouse, the DJ booth, the $30,000, the way he looked annoyed at me. Martina didn't yell. She didn't go dramatic. She got very quiet. "You need documentation," she said. "Every payment, every message, every lie." I didn't want to hear that. Documentation meant war. But that afternoon, I logged into my bank accounts. $5,000 a month, 36 months, $180,000. Seeing it itemized made it physical. My hands started shaking again. I had taken double shifts for this. My back pain, the cortisone shots in my knee, the early 401k penalty. All for what? Turntables? That evening, Jason showed up at my apartment without warning. He banged on the door hard enough that my neighbor opened hers to look. I opened it. He walked in like he still lived there. "You're overreacting," he said immediately. "You always go nuclear." I laughed, actually laughed, because the audacity was almost impressive. 3 years, Jason. "I was going to tell you once I made it," he said. "But you panic about everything. I needed space to build something real. You intercepted my mail." He shrugged. "You would have spiraled." I felt something shift inside me. Not rage, not hysteria, something colder. "I sacrificed everything for you." "And it worked," he shot back. "Look at what I built." Then, as if this wasn't insane enough, he added, "Actually, this is kind of good timing." I stared at him. "There's this DJ I've been talking to," he continued, pacing my tiny living room. "Regional name. We could open a studio together. I just need 50 grand to secure the space." My brain stopped. 50,000, I repeated. "You already invested so much. What's a little more for the actual career?" I don't remember deciding to do it. But I said calmly, "Come back tomorrow. Bring contracts. Show me everything." His whole face changed. He thought he'd won. He hugged me before he left. And when the door shut behind him, I slid down against it and sobbed so hard I couldn't breathe. Then I wiped my face. And I started printing bank statements. Jason showed up the next evening like he was walking into a Shark Tank audition. Clean sneakers, designer jacket, laptop tucked under his arm. He even brought a leather portfolio like that would magically make him legitimate. He kissed my cheek. I didn't kiss him back. My apartment suddenly felt very small with him in it. The same apartment I moved into so he could focus in his quiet studio downtown. The same one bedroom with the parking lot view I told myself was temporary. He didn't notice the 3 neat stacks of paper on the coffee table. He was too busy opening his laptop. "Okay," he said, energized, like last night never happened. "So here's the opportunity." He launched into it. follower metrics, brand partnerships, a collab with some regional DJ named Marco Blaze, which I later learned was a guy with 20,000 followers and a vape sponsorship. He talked for almost an hour. I let him. I watched him in a way I hadn't before. The way his eyes lit up, not when he mentioned building something, but when he mentioned image, reputation, status. He wasn't building a business, he was building an illusion. "And this is the lease agreement," he said finally, sliding papers toward me. 50,000 secures the studio space. You'd be a silent partner, 15% return. Silent, I repeated. Cleaner for taxes. Trust me. Trust me. There it was again. When he finished, he leaned back like he'd just closed a deal. "So," he said, "are we doing this?" I picked up the envelope from the coffee table. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears, but my voice came out steady. "I brought you something too." He smiled, thinking it was a check. He opened it. First paper, a cease and desist letter from an attorney named Samuel Cartwright. Second, a spreadsheet listing every single transfer, 36 payments of $5,000. Third, a filed small claims complaint for fraud. He went very still. "What is this?" he asked quietly. "You withdrew from medical school 3 years ago," I said. "You intercepted mail. You knowingly misrepresented your enrollment to obtain funds." His jaw tightened. "You can't sue me," he snapped. "I'm your son. Fraud is fraud." His composure cracked immediately. "You're being insane," he said, standing up. "You're going to ruin my life over money?" "Over lies," I corrected. He started pacing. Then came the tears. Sudden, dramatic, perfectly timed. "I was scared to disappoint you," he choked. "You'd already sacrificed so much." I didn't move, because now I saw it. The performance. When crying didn't work, anger took over. He slammed his hand against my kitchen counter so hard a glass fell and shattered. "You think you're some victim?" he shouted. "You chose to give me that money." My neighbor knocked on the wall. "You forged a life," I said quietly. "You stole my retirement." His face twisted into something ugly. "If you go through with this," he said, voice low and shaking, "I'm done. You'll never see me again." I stood up too. "You already left me," I said, 3 years ago." He swept his laptop off the table in rage. It hit the floor with a crack. Then he stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. I stood there surrounded by broken glass and the echo of his threats. My hands were shaking. But under the shaking, relief. For the first time in 3 years, I wasn't financing a lie. I was ending one, and I wasn't done. The next morning, my car wouldn't start. At first, I thought it was just old battery karma finally catching up to me. But when I stepped out into the parking lot and looked closer, I saw it. Both front tires slashed. Not clean punctures, jagged, angry. I just stood there in my scrubs, staring at the rubber peeling outward like torn skin. My stomach dropped, but I wasn't even surprised. That scared me more than anything. "Jason." My phone buzzed almost on cue. "You're really doing this? You think you can just humiliate me? You have no idea who you're messing with." I took screenshots, sent them straight to Samuel Cartwright. Then I called Martina for a ride to work. On the drive, she didn't say, "I told you so." She just squeezed my hand and said, "Escalation means you hit a nerve." At the hospital, I moved like a ghost, smiled at patients, checked vitals, adjusted IVs, all while replaying the sound of glass shattering and Jason's voice telling me I'd never see him again. Around noon, my phone started buzzing nonstop. Facebook notifications. Jason had posted. He wrote this long, dramatic rant about toxic parents who use money as control. He didn't name me, but he didn't need to. He talked about breaking free from generational manipulation, about how he was choosing art over oppression. Comments poured in, friends from his DJ circle calling him brave, telling him to cut the narcissist out. I didn't comment. I screenshotted. Then something else hit. A call from the hospital's HR office. "Marianne, someone contacted administration claiming you were mentally unstable and misusing hospital resources." My blood ran cold. Jason. He'd tried to hit my job. They didn't believe it. I've worked there 25 years, but the humiliation of knowing my son had called my workplace to smear me, that broke something open in my chest. That evening, I went straight to Samuel's office instead of home. I handed him the tire photos, the texts, the social media post, the HR incident. Samuel leaned back slowly. "He's panicking," he said, "which means he knows he's exposed." "Can we escalate?" I asked. He nodded once. "We can amend the complaint. Add harassment. Add property damage." "And Marianne?" "Yes?" "We can also send a preservation notice to his business partners. Make them aware of the fraud claim. If they're investors, they deserve to know the origin of funds. My pulse steadied. Not revenge. Accountability. Joshua, the roommate, texted me that night. I didn't know about med school. Jason said the money was from a trust. If this goes public, we're screwed. I replied calmly. Then tell the truth. By midnight, my doorbell rang again. Jason. But this time he wasn't polished. He looked unhinged. Eyes red, hair messy, smelled like alcohol. You're destroying everything, he hissed when I cracked the door. Marco backed out because someone sent him a legal notice. I did. He shoved the door hard enough it hit the wall. You don't get to ruin my future because you're bitter. You ruined your own future. He grabbed a framed photo from my shelf, one of us at his high school graduation, and hurled it across the room. Glass exploded again. You always wanted a doctor, he screamed. Not me. I stepped back but didn't flinch. No, I said quietly. I wanted honesty. He froze for half a second, then stormed out again. This time I locked the door behind him and called the police to file a report. My hands shook while I spoke, but my voice didn't, and for the first time since that grocery store conversation, I felt something close to power. Not the loud kind, the steady kind. He thought I was weak because I loved him. He forgot something. I also survived him. The police report didn't magically fix anything. It just made everything official. That night after Jason smashed the graduation photo and stormed out, I sat on my bedroom floor holding the bent frame in my lap. The glass had sliced my palm when I picked it up, and I didn't even notice until blood started dripping onto the carpet. I just stared at the photo. 18-year-old Jason in a cap and gown, his arm around me, both of us smiling like the world was open and clean and possible. I realized something in that moment. The son in that photo? He might not exist anymore, or maybe he never did. The next morning, Samuel filed the amended complaint. Fraud, harassment, property damage. Preservation notices sent to his business associates, including Joshua and Marco Blaze. By afternoon, the fallout started. Joshua called me first. I'm dissolving the partnership, he said, voice shaking. Investors are asking questions. Jason told us the startup capital came from a family trust. If this becomes criminal, tell the truth, I repeated. Joshua did, and that's when Jason detonated. He showed up at my apartment building again, but this time he didn't knock. He pulled the fire alarm. The entire building evacuated into the parking lot at 10:47 p.m. Neighbors in pajamas, a crying toddler, an elderly man with an oxygen tank. And there was Jason, pacing like a caged animal, yelling at me in front of everyone. You're ruining my life over money, he screamed. You always loved control. People stared. Phones came out. I felt heat crawl up my neck, humiliation, shame, but underneath it, something else. Clarity. You stole from me, I said, loud enough for the circle of neighbors to hear. For 3 years. He laughed hysterically. You gave it to me. For medical school, I shot back, which you quit and lied about. Silence rippled through the small crowd. Jason's face changed when he realized people were listening differently now. He lunged toward me, not to hit me, but close enough that it made 2 neighbors step between us. The police arrived fast this time. The officer recognized the address from the previous night's report. Jason tried to spin it. She's unstable. She's obsessed. She's trying to control my business. The officer asked one simple question. Sir, did you pull the alarm? Jason hesitated. That was enough. They didn't arrest him that night, but they documented everything. The officer pulled me aside quietly. If he escalates again, you need to consider a restraining order. My son. Restraining order. I nodded. Jason's rage was unraveling him. Within days, his DJ bookings started canceling. Marco Blaze posted a vague statement about misaligned values. Joshua publicly announced the dissolution of their company. Jason went online again, but this time his posts were frantic, angry, accusatory. He named me directly. Some parents can't handle their kids succeeding, he wrote. Except now people were asking questions. Real ones. One comment stuck with me. If your business was built on fraud money, that's not success. Jason deleted the post within an hour. Then came the voicemail. He was crying. Not performative this time, not polished. Mom, I think I messed up. I didn't call back. Instead, I forwarded the voicemail to Samuel. Because love doesn't mean stepping back into the fire. And Jason? He was finally starting to feel the heat. Mediation was scheduled 3 weeks after the fire alarm stunt. 3 weeks of silence from Jason, at least directly. Indirectly? It was chaos. He'd started messaging extended family, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years, an old church friend, even my ex-husband, telling them I was mentally unraveling, that I'd trapped him financially, that I was trying to sabotage his career because I couldn't handle him choosing passion over medicine. Martina screenshotted everything she could find and sent it to me like a war correspondent. But what surprised me most wasn't the smear campaign. It was the quiet. Jason stopped showing up physically. No more pounding on my door, no more fire alarms, and that silence felt heavier than the chaos. Samuel explained why. His lawyer advised him to stop escalating, he said. If this goes to court with documented harassment, he's in deeper trouble. So Jason pivoted. 2 nights before mediation, he emailed me directly, not through his lawyer. Subject line, please. I almost didn't open it. Inside, it was 3 paragraphs. He admitted dropping out of med school, admitted intercepting mail, said he panicked and thought he could fix it later, said the money felt abstract until it wasn't. He blamed fear, pride, shame. Then he wrote something that landed like a punch. I didn't think you'd actually fight back. That line kept replaying in my head. He truly believed I would keep absorbing it. At mediation, Jason looked smaller. No designer jacket, no DJ persona, just a man in wrinkled khakis sitting next to his attorney. The mediator asked him directly if he understood the claim of fraud. He didn't try to spin it. Yes, he said quietly. And in that sterile conference room, with fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, I watched him confront reality for the first time. We negotiated for hours. Samuel was calm, clinical. Jason's lawyer pushed back on the fraud language, on the payment amount, but the evidence was clean, documented. 36 transfers, withdrawal letters, preservation notices, police reports, fire alarm incident. Eventually, the terms settled. $40,000 repayment over 8 years, $15,000 upfront from selling DJ equipment, mandatory financial counseling, and a signed document acknowledging he obtained funds through deception. When the mediator slid the final agreement across the table, Jason's hand trembled before he signed. He looked at me once, not angry, not cocky, just exposed. Afterward, in the hallway, he tried to approach me. Samuel stepped between us. No contact unless initiated by Ms. Marianne, he said firmly. Jason stopped. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just nodded once. I walked out into the sunlight feeling hollow and steady at the same time. This wasn't a triumphant revenge. It was a reckoning. The first $15,000 hit my account 2 weeks later. I transferred it directly into a new retirement account. Not because the money fixed anything, but because every dollar moving back felt like a boundary reinforced. Jason thought I'd collapse. Instead, I built paperwork. And paperwork? Turns out it's stronger than tears. The first monthly payment of $417 hit my account exactly 30 days after mediation. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel triumph. I felt quiet. The automatic transfer Alana helped me set up moved it straight into my new retirement account. The one Jason doesn't know about. The one with security questions he'll never guess. For months after the agreement, I kept expecting another explosion, another fire alarm, another smashed frame. But Jason didn't escalate again. He went silent. I heard through Joshua that he sold most of the DJ equipment to make the $15,000 upfront payment, sold the turntables he used to cradle like trophies, gave up the penthouse lease, took a job at an audio supply warehouse. When I first heard that, I felt something sharp and ugly, almost relief mixed with grief. Because that was the first real consequence, not a threat, not a dramatic performance, reality. 6 months into the payment plan, he missed a deadline by 3 days. My stomach dropped when I checked the account and didn't see it. Old panic tried to rise. Samuel reminded me calmly, 3 consecutive missed payments triggers enforcement. On day 3, the money arrived with a brief note from his attorney citing temporary banking issues. I didn't respond. I don't respond to crumbs anymore. Therapy became the real turning point. Charlotte, my therapist, once asked me, what hurts more, the money or the lie? I answered immediately, the lie. Because the money was numbers. The lie was 3 years of conversations where he called me his hero. I had to grieve a living person. That's the part nobody prepares you for. You expect betrayal to look monstrous, loud, obvious. Instead, it looks like your son hugging you while cashing your checks. 2 years passed. The payments continued. Slow, predictable, mechanical. I rebuilt carefully, picked up 1 extra shift instead of 2, met with Alana quarterly, bought a small condo as a rental investment. Nothing flashy, but stable. Mine. Jason sent a letter through Samuel at the end of year 3, not dramatic. Not manipulative, just plain. He admitted he built his identity around being impressive instead of being honest. He said losing the DJ business hurt less than realizing he'd become someone who stole from his own mother. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He said he understood if it never came. I didn't respond to that either. Forgiveness isn't owed on schedule. But here's the part that surprises people. This story isn't about revenge. The legal action? Necessary. The paperwork? Protective. The public unraveling? Consequence. The sweet part? That's me. It's the fact that I sleep now. It's the fact that I stopped checking my phone at midnight expecting chaos. It's watching my retirement balance slowly grow again. It's knowing that when Jason thought I'd cave, I didn't. The broken graduation photo frame is still in a drawer, not because I'm sentimental, but because it reminds me of something important. I can love someone deeply and still refuse to fund their destruction. I can be a mother and still have boundaries. Jason didn't destroy my life. He forced me to rebuild it stronger. And that's the kind of legacy no one can intercept in the mail ever again.